Wonderhussy here, hanging out on the edge of town in Las Vegas, one of the biggest desert cities in the American Southwest. Looking out at all this urban sprawl, it's hard to believe that Vegas has only been an incorporated city for a little over 100 years. And what started out as a tiny desert outpost way down over yonder somewhere by a natural watering hole has completely blown up over the years to the point that as of 2022, almost 3 million people live in the Las Vegas Valley. Of course, there are unique challenges for a city of this size in the middle of one of the hottest, driest deserts on Earth, and water is chief among them. Everyone's seen the photos of Lake Mead lately, and it's not looking good. The western US is currently in the throes of a mega drought, which means even less rain than usual and less snowfall in the Rocky Mountains to melt and flow down the Colorado River to fill Lake Mead. So how are the millions of people in all these thousands and thousands of ticky-tacky little boxes supposed to keep flushing them toilets and filling them bathtubs and watering them golf courses? Well, say what you will about Las Vegas, but it's actually really good at water conservation and water management. I know, you've seen them golf courses and the Bellagio fountains, and you're probably laughing at the idea of Vegas doing anything to conserve water. But it's true, Las Vegas is actually one of the most water-efficient cities in the world. Despite the fact that 750,000 people moved here over the last 20 years, 750,000 people moved here over the last 20 years. In that same time period, water usage actually went down by 26%. And the way they do that is by being very efficient at water recycling. Almost 100% of all water used indoors in Las Vegas ends up being recycled, treated, and returned to Lake Mead. And even what little rainwater Las Vegas gets is put to good use. I mean, Las Vegas only gets a little over 4 inches of rainfall a year, which isn't much, but out here in the desert, every drop counts. So the city built a system of drainage channels and detention basins, which I think you can see one here behind me, to collect all that rainwater and funnel it down through the valley to Lake Mead. I mean, you might be able to tell from up here that Las Vegas is in a giant valley sloping downhill southeast towards Lake Mead. And when it does rain in the desert, it pours. We get these dramatic summer monsoon thunderstorms where the skies just open up and water comes pouring down. And because the ground is so dry and so hard, it can't suck any of it up. So the water just goes rushing downhill, following the path of least resistance. And as recently as the 1990s, whenever we got one of those giant summer monsoonal thunderstorms, the water would just go rushing down into town and flood Las Vegas. So in the late 90s, Vegas built the system of drainage channels and detention basins to channel all that floodwater safely underneath the city, all the way down to Lake Mead, saving as much as possible for future use. So I thought it might be interesting to follow the journey of a single drop of water as it makes its way from the mountains west of town, down through the valley, and out into Lake Mead. Because along the way, it goes through some pretty messed up stuff. Let's go check it out. Okay, here we are at the vast, magnificent Flamingo Detention Basin. It's basically this huge bowl right in the middle of town. As a matter of fact, if you look at a satellite image of Vegas, like on Google Earth, you can see there's these huge blank spots in the city, and it's a big city, very densely packed, lots of high-rises and apartments and everything. But then there's these random big barren patches in the middle of town, and you go, well, why isn't that developed? Well, a lot of them, most of them, are these big detention basins. Now you'll just have to take my word for it, but well, maybe you can sort of see poking above the road there. You can see a little bit of the mountains. That's where the mountains are, where I was just standing. And so any rainfall that falls on those mountains runs down this drainage channel here. And, well, I guess the idea is it's supposed to fill this detention basin. And it did just rain yesterday, so there is some water in the basin, which is good news. looking at the water, you might go, oh, gee, wonderhussie, I wouldn't want to drink that. And neither would I, because it's completely clogged with the effluvia of, well, 21st century Las Vegas metropolitan life. Soggy cardboard boxes, soggy plastic bags, rusted hulks of old shopping carts, a beer can, a wiffle ball, a water bottle, you know, all the bits and pieces that make up our wonderful modern world. And believe it or not, this is all going to flow through those channels on the other side. I'll zoom in so you can see. All this water is going to flow through there and continue on its journey underneath the city of Las Vegas. Okay, you might have heard of these infamous storm drain tunnels that exist under the city of Las Vegas because homeless people live down there. Well, there's a vast network. I think it's hundreds of miles of tunnels that go under the city because that's the most efficient way of getting all this flood water, such as it is, out of town and down to the lake without wreaking any havoc on the streets. But I don't think any homeless people are living in the tunnels way up here on the edge of town. I think that's more by the strip or downtown where it's easier to get down in them. I mean, God, just to get out here to the edge of town, it's like a 30-minute drive or a 3-hour bus ride. But anyway, I did want to look at this drainage channel because it's one of the first ones that catches the water as it comes into town. And I guess these giant concrete blocks are sort of here to filter out the debris. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's sort of the same concept as like those flippers at the bottom of a pinball machine, like keep any giant boulders or dead bodies from flowing down into the detention basin and potentially getting swept into the water supply. Huh? It's just a guess. It really is gross, though, how much debris does get through those concrete blocks. I mean, this is the edge of town, by the way. You know, like I was just saying, it's like a 3-hour bus ride to get out here. So you would think living way out here on the edge of town, it'd be like, you know, higher end people that, you know, presumably you'd have to have a car to live out here at least. But apparently even higher end people are freaking slobs. And I guess to be fair, it does get real windy in Vegas a lot of the time. So, you know, sometimes stuff just blows away, like these plastic bags, and I saw some Mylar balloons. But you tell me how a shopping cart blows away. Or a Kotex. Oh, look, a golf ball. Imagine that. And boy howdy, looking at some of this junk here, like this can of pesticide and all these beer cans and soda bottles, I don't know how they filter this water out enough to ever be suitable for drinking. I mean, you can see here's the channel. So that's where it came down. Our little drop of water's journey came down off the mountains, down through this channel, collected in this basin, and now it's flowing through another channel onward towards the strip. You might even be able to see, if you look real close, peeking up there is, that's one of the hotels. I can't tell which one. Anyway, as much as I'd love to just wade in my galoshes through the entire network of storm drain tunnels in Las Vegas, I don't have time for that today, so let's get back in the car and drive to the next stop on the journey of our little hypothetical drop of water friend. Okay, now we're over here right behind the strip at an entrance to the infamous tunnels. Those tunnels go for miles and miles and miles underneath the entire city of Las Vegas. And this is the path our hypothetical little drop of water would take as it flows down from the mountain through that first detention base we went to, and now here through the thick of the dirty city. There's an office park over there. There's the half-dead Rio Hotel. And nothing over on this side except for the guy from the Union Pacific Railroad giving me the stink eye. I guess maybe I'm not supposed to be on the other side of this fence. Hey, but I'm not the only one back here. There's a ton of people living down here. Okay, now we're really in the thick of Vegas. That last location was sort of in the resort corridor, you know, where all the fancy hotels are, and well, they have to keep that sort of clean for the tourists, but that's not the case here. We're right here in the middle of the real nitty-gritty Las Vegas where people live. You can see right down here, the drainage channel continues on its journey towards Lake Mead, And there's actually a really good amount of water coming through this portion of it. Wow, remember where we were at the last entrance to the tunnels? There was hardly any water down there. Look, people are living down here too. Oh my gosh. I don't want to be exploitative, but it's very interesting to me how people will just make a home wherever they can. Wow, there's a good flow going through this channel, and you can see it continues on quite a ways, and that's east. This water is eastbound and down, and it is loaded up and trucking. And by that I mean loaded up with all kinds of garbage. I mean, the stuff that ends up here in this portion of the drainage tunnels right after it passes below the strip is probably particularly foul. I mean, I remember reading stuff in the newspaper about them finding dead babies, I think. Well, you know, you go to Vegas, you're pregnant, you're lying to yourself, you're in denial. I'm not pregnant. Well, then you have the baby in Vegas in a bathroom stall, and you're like, now what? Well, apparently, now what for at least one person was throw it in, I don't know if they flushed it down the toilet or threw it in the canal or what. Like, just terrible. Anyway, no telling what kinds of unspeakable atrocities are down here in this river. I mean, let alone just the amount of drugs that must be in this water, you know, from everybody pissing in there. You know, I mean, look, you can't walk 2 feet without kicking over an empty liquor bottle, let alone all the beer cans we've already seen. And that's not even taking into account all the prescription and non-prescription drugs people do out here. So golly, it's a miracle they're ever able to clean that filthy, foul, disgusting, toxic water enough to dump it back in Lake Mead. But okay, so now we've followed our little drop of water all the way from the western edge of town, down from the mountains, through the valley, through the unspeakable filth of the strip and the middle of Vegas. And now we're all the way over here on the east side of town at what's called the Wetlands Park. This is where all of Las Vegas's treated wastewater and runoff water are released back into the natural water supply. Remember, almost 100% of all the water used indoors in Vegas is recycled and treated at a reclamation facility, so it can be returned to Lake Mead and used again. Well, the Wetlands Park is where that treated wastewater is released back into the Las Vegas wash, along with all the runoff water we've been following in this video. I mean, this is water that has traveled all the way through the Vegas Valley and picked up all kinds of nastiness along its route. I mean, we got a bottle of piss, styrofoam takeout containers, an ice cream bucket, and what looks like the world's biggest toilet seat, but I think it's actually part of one of those road construction cones. And no telling how far some of this stuff has come. I mean, for all we know, somebody could have filled that bottle up with piss clear over on the west side of town. In fact, standing right where I was standing at the beginning of this video. But yep, Las Vegas, this is your drinking water. As the runoff water flows through the Wetlands Park, grasses and reeds filter out the trash, so it's pretty clean by the time it enters the Las Vegas wash and flows down into Lake Mead. But what's really interesting is I think there's some kind of baptism or something going on. I don't want to freak these people out by videotaping them, but why is this dude wearing all white ceremonial robes? They're all wearing white and they're down by the riverside. Golly, I can think of a lot better places to get baptized than in the Las Vegas wash, even though at this point it actually looks pretty nice. I mean, if you remember how gross and choked with garbage it was farther on up the line, this is pretty clean in comparison. But I still don't think I'd want to get in it. Man, look at this. They're doing some kind of weird ceremony. Maybe they're not baptizing, but golly, I hope she's not about to drink a cup of that river water. Ah! Oh no, she's gonna baptize the lady. Isn't that what just happened? Didn't she pour water on that other woman's head? Oh gosh, I don't know. And I guess I feel kind of rude spying on them, so I'll just walk over here. This is the last little bit of the Las Vegas wash before it goes into, well, I was gonna say Lake Mead, but first it has to go through this fake monstrosity called Lake Las Vegas, and we'll go check that out next. But before it goes into Lake Las Vegas, it's just sort of filtered out by all these grasses and reeds and trees. And you can see there's actually some pretty substantial cottonwood trees on the banks here. From what I understand, they've done a lot of restoration work down here because, well, because of the rampant development, or some might say overdevelopment of Vegas. I guess the natural water drainage system was pretty tore up and the banks were eroding, and so that some nature people came in here and planted these trees and these reeds to shore things up, give the birds a place to hang out. And, well, I was gonna say, look, it's pretty clean, but to be honest, there's more garbage here too. I mean, guys, I'm here at what's supposed to be the end of the line. Like, when I was thinking about making this video in my mind, I pictured the very end of the process being crystal clear and pure, and, well, not like this, but I guess we're not at the end of the line. They still have to go through Lake Las Vegas. And, well, the rich folks out there, I guarantee they don't allow any of these plastic rum bottles and cardboard boxes and whatnot to coagulate in their water. So we'll go check that out. But before we leave here, I just want to do a little pan around. I think it's actually kind of cool. All this water here, this is all the reclaimed sewage water and the storm runoff water that traveled all the way through that foul mess of a city. And it actually looks pretty nice. You know, all this trash here is just washed up on the bank. Some idiot sat here and drank a bottle of rum one night and didn't take the bottle with him. So the water itself, I dare say, looks decent. Do not drink. For your safety, water in the Las Vegas Wash contains untreated runoff and reclaimed water and is not suitable for human consumption. Golly, makes you think twice about going swimming in Lake Mead. You know, you always get a little bit of water in your nose and mouth when you're swimming. Blech. Okay, now let's go check out what happens to the water once it becomes Lake Las Vegas. Okay, believe it or not, this is where all that funky, nasty, sumpy, reclaimed water that flowed all the way through the bowels of Vegas ended up. This is Lake Las Vegas, and we're standing on the fake Ponte Vecchio Bridge, which was built to look like that famous bridge in Venice, I guess, in Italy. Anyway, this is a fake lake built by developers for rich folks. Matter of fact, I think Celine Dion has a house out here. I think the Sultan of Brunei has a house out here. A bunch of rich people have houses out here on the shores of this beautiful lake, which is made essentially out of reclaimed sewage water and storm drain runoff. It's amazing what people will buy if you tell them it's Lake Las Vegas. So somewhere below us on the bridge down there, under there, is where the water comes out from the Las Vegas Wash and fills up Lake Las Vegas before exiting the other side into Lake Mead. Look, you can see over here on the other side of the fake Ponte Vecchio Bridge. That's the other side of the wash area where we were just at, where those people were getting baptized. Golly, imagine if all these rich folks knew there was a baptism going on just upstream. Ooh-wee. And no telling what else goes on just upstream. I mean, well, we saw all the homeless people living in the tunnels, and we saw all the garbage in the detention basin, and we saw all the trash that was coagulated at the Wetlands Park. And yeah, the solid bulk waste, so to speak, has been removed. But like that sign that we just read said, this is basically a mix of treated sewage and untreated storm runoff. And well, based on what we saw in that storm runoff earlier, I'm not sure which one is worse, but it sure do look pretty. This is actually a kind of a funky little development. I mean, I've been out here, well, I haven't been out here in years, but there's like this whole fake Italian village with like restaurants and condos and apartments. I mean, I guess when they built this place, they meant for it to be like its own little village out here. And I want to say all this stuff opened in like 2003. So it's been 20 years now, and it's still kind of like a ghost town. I mean, yeah, aside from these random rich people that come here every now and then, you know, like Celine Dion, she didn't live here all the time. I don't know who lives here all the time, if anyone. Matter of fact, I had a friend who lived out here, and I think he moved because he said it was, well, it was deserted and depressing. But as far as a fun place to go have a drink, and then they have bands on that little stage down there on the water, and then I guess you can go on like a booze cruise on the yacht there, or even just, you know, ride a jet ski around. It's pretty nice, especially when it's also friggin' cold. Okay, we've arrived at the last stop on the journey of our little hypothetical drop of water. And that is Lake Mead. Okay, technically you can't see Lake Mead from here. And maybe you used to be able to see Lake Mead from here when it was full, but right now Lake Mead is a pretty good distance over that way. But this is where the water comes out of Lake Las Vegas and goes straight into Lake Mead. So we've basically followed a drop of water, travels through Vegas all the way from the mountains on the west side, through town, and back out the other side. And I don't know about you, but it looks like it did a pretty good job getting through Vegas unscathed. Or I guess I should say the folks at the Southern Nevada Water Authority did a good job at cleaning all the debris out of it. Because it doesn't look too bad. I mean, there's a little foam on it, but that's probably just because of the rapid there going down over that weir or whatever that is. Okay, well, I'm actually camping out here tonight for another video I'm making. I'm meeting a friend a little bit farther up at Stewart's Point. And since I'm going that way anyways, I'll go ahead and stop one more place for this video and give y'all a peek at the state of Lake Mead on today, January 6th, 2023. Let's see if it's as bad as they say. Golly! You can barely even see the lake from here. This is Government Wash. You can see this used to be a launch ramp that went down into the lake, but holy cow, look how far away the water is now. That's pretty sobering. But, as we've seen in today's video, at least we know the fine folks of the Las Vegas Water District are doing what they can to make sure not a single drop of rainwater goes to waste. 'Cause boy howdy, when I said earlier that every drop counts, I wasn't kidding. I mean, imagine it's the apocalypse and the desert Southwest is dried up and the only water around is that filthy, sumpy, brackish, garbage bag filled trash water that we saw earlier today. Well, guess what? That water would keep you alive, and as distasteful as it is, well, you'd probably drink it if you had to. And who knows, if the lake keeps drying up like this and they keep building more houses in Vegas, well, we might all have to be drinking that brackish trash water. What do I know? All I know is it's getting dark fast and I gotta go meet my friend all the way up at Stewart's Point before it gets dark. So I'm gonna get back in my car and cruise on to shoot my next video. But I hope you enjoyed this. I know this was kind of a weird, geeky topic, following water through Vegas. I thought it was really interesting, and I hope you did too.